Time's counting down. That's all I gotta say. From my last video to now, it's probably about a week's past, maybe a little longer. Haven't done a video in a minute. I've had a lot of good topics come to mind. Not really on the dating aspect, obviously, from the what's kind of been shown in my previous video, but just overall, just life, um, processing everything. Anybody that's going through kind of a critical chronic illness. My situation could be unique in a way that I don't feel sick. So, never have really felt sick. I mean, there's been times where I've been hospitalized because of the underlying conditions, whether it might be dealing with GI related bleeds and things from varices. It's caused by the clot that I have in my portal vein, which could just has stemmed either from, well, it has stemmed from the myeloproliferative neoplasm or um, myelofibrosis, but um, who knows if the clots caused the spleen to increase or if the spleen is increased because of the disease and just sucking up all the artificial, not artificial, but just poor blood cells. I could be butchering that. I mean, I should know more than I already do. But right now, my biggest concern is I'm trying to break this process down into the two different categories. Probably need to break it down into 5 categories. Um, Hopefully, everybody can hear me. I know it's raining out. We got cars going by and everything. So it's always nice to have a good storm come in. A warm front to a cold front. So some thunder right there. Right now, I have it broken down 2 phases. I have the splenectomy and then I have the transplant, right? It's kind of how my brain processes. But within the surgery, there's really 3 parts. There's prep for the surgery, which me mentally preparing. There's getting to the OR, hopefully things go right. And then there's, the surgery, which that's all kind of one ordeal. Then there's the recovery piece, the hospital recovery piece in general, recovery at home, and hopefully you don't have any blood clotting, no bleeds, no infections, right? So that's the biggest thing, and especially with a large midline incision that they're going to do, um, definitely pretty bad. So yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna have much of a description on this one. I'm not really taking any notes. I don't really have any notes. Just kind of going off a whim, just to post something as an update. I kind of want to do that. I know I don't get no click through, any click through, but they're out there. Maybe if something would happen, hopefully it doesn't. At least I live on, immortal through the interwebs and YouTube. Hopefully this is picking up my voice okay. So move it up a little bit. So we got that, and then we got the second piece, which is the stem cell transplant. Right after I get healed up, do the stem cell transplant. There's time in the hospital, and then there's recovery time afterwards. Right. So I think I've elaborated a little bit. It's going to be 30 days probably in the hospital, chemo, full body radiation, get the stem cells, get built back up enough to go home, and then 100-day recovery of going to the hospital 2 to 3 times a week to get labs or checks or physical exams, whatever it might be. There's a lot of preliminary stuff that I have to do. A lot of things I got to try to cope with. One that Hasn't I've done a really good job of staying motivated in my daily routines. I think that's important up until you can't, and then you have to develop and maintain some type of routine during the recovery phase, in my opinion. Habits like smoking a cigar is probably going to go away for a long time, which, I'm okay with. I'd rather sacrifice a year of my life to have 40 more, right? I've said that before. But a lot of prep work, a lot of checks and balances they got to do before I go do the stem cell transplant. Meeting with a cardiologist, getting additional blood work done, getting a CT scan of my lungs. Just because of the normal checks with this stuff, and again, being a healthier individual on the younger side. Um, I say healthy as in, you look at me and I look fine. I'm strong. I'm able-bodied. There's no other ailments or deficiencies or anything that I have besides this blood disorder, disease, or cancer, however you want to define it, that doesn't really give me any symptoms. I say that, but I've had this for so long, I'm not sure if I'm really asymptomatic or I've just gotten used to the symptoms, right? There's no glaring symptoms, but do I have the strength or do I get fatigued? Um, do I feel bloated because of the large spleen? Like all this stuff, I would say not really, but until I go through this and hopefully get cured, um, you don't know. I don't want to make this a longer recording than it has to be. I might make another recording. I'm gonna be doing some traveling here in the next couple of days over my birthday weekend. Um, so I may do a couple road talks. Maybe I don't know. We'll see. I mean, no one really watches. I do this for my entertainment and my mental health more than anything. That's what I say when I do this stuff for work. But you know, um, I'm trying to break it down and process like that. I'm trying to stay motivated in my routines. Work has been a little tough this week for once because we're doing not performance reviews, but goal setting for 2026, and it's like, how do I set goals when I'm not going to be here for majority of the year, right? So I've had to allocate and think about some short-term goals and some long-term goals of putting systems and processes in place to make sure things don't fall flat whenever I leave, right? So, I've contemplated at night. I got the normal worries like everybody does, and it always comes at night, right? Of like, I should live life to the fullest. I should um, take more risks, take more opportunities, even in the short window I have before the surgery. And of course, everything sounds better at night, and then you wake up the next morning, and all those ideas kind of seem a little silly, right? And all those thoughts seem a little silly. But yeah, I got some apprehensive, I got some nerves, I got some anxiety with it. I wouldn't say I'm anxious or have anxiety generally, um, but I feel like I'm not going to get to the point of panic, maybe at all, right? I don't know. I've contemplated my mortality, contemplated religion and my relationship with God and the lack thereof and how I should be better. But I need to do it for the right reasons, not doing it and changing my ways. Not that I need to change any ways, but be better at some things outside of just facing my mortality, right? So it's interesting. Thinking all that stuff and all that stuff that you kind of go through and try to register and try to process. It's very easy to get numb and get on social media and just doom scroll and just don't care about anything. And I'm trying not to do that. right? I still have to show up for my daughter. I still have to perform at work. I still need to go to the gym. I need to be as physically and mentally fit as possible before going into this to gear myself up for success. So, but yeah, laying in bed at night, I think about a lot of that stuff. I think about a lot of opportunities, missed opportunities, relationships, and then the inevitable what would happen if and getting anesthesia, not waking up, and the pain, surgery. Just right now I'm thinking more on the splenectomy and the surgery side more than I am on the stem cell side. Even though the stem cell side is probably more inherent risks of complications than there are during the surgery. Um, all this is, I wouldn't say, um, it's not really elective. It's more preventative, right? I could delay this. The more I delay it, the likelihood of me not able to have a successful transplant goes down. Right, the older I get, the disease progresses, the bone marrow scars more. Right, maybe I develop a different ailment that keeps me from having a successful transplant or a more complicated transplant. Right. Um, and getting back to the clot, the big risks too, and having another CT scan done is just getting a good imagery and figuring out where all my vascularities are at and how they've grown across to adapt from that lack of blood flow from that clot. That puts me at a significant bleed risk. So a lot of questions I need to get answered. I don't think you're gonna come into it, and I don't think it's normal to go into something like this being 100% fine. You're always going to have some type of apprehension. So, um, I'm just trying to stay motivated. That's what you can do when you do things like this. But again, I don't want to drag on too long. If you have something similar going through the same situation, um, you don't have to be younger. You don't have to be older. Um, don't know if anybody would ever even reach this. It could be years from now. Still leave a comment. Maybe somebody else will see it, right? And you need that support group. But different facets you could go with this, and I don't want to go forever. But you go down the financial route, you go down the spiritual route, go down your personal route. And how this affects you, and your relationships, and your family. But with that being said, hopefully you got something out of this video, maybe some motivation, give me some motivation, like the video. If you want to subscribe, you can. Leave a comment. That's probably the best way for me to know that you've made it this far and at least reached in some format or way. So, with that being said, I'll see you again. Promise.